I am glad to have Mr. Casting on my podcast. You see, it is interesting to have it is interesting to hear people's story, and it is way intense to read their bio.
December of 2020. 6 months later, my soldier. When we came back from deployment in Iraq, he was always on time, always did everything you asked him to do. He was very disciplined. Yes, sergeant. No, sergeant. Roger that. Very respectful. You could tell he came from a good family. His father was real disciplined on him. He was ranked 25th in the nation, #2 in the state in wrestling through high school. He was, physically fit. He was just a great kid. He was just a good kid. And after we came back from Iraq, and then Memorial Day, you get a phone call, and they tell you he's dead.
Today, I have Mr. Casting on my podcast, and he shared his bio with me of how he managed to grow up in such a harsh environment, emotionally harsh. I would say, with my own inclination, ethically harsh, because harsh. Today, I have Mr. Michael Castling, who went into the military, and now he is committed to helping people who are less privileged. Not because he felt the luxury to do it, but because he considered it his moral obligation to help those who are probably going through what he has gone through in his past. And he's finding a way to curb that and to rectify some wrongs and to transcend the potential chaos that could result from inactivity on those or from those who have the moral and ethical obligation to fulfill something that is way beyond, I don't know what word to use, but I don't want to understate and overstate it, but I'll just welcome Mr. Castling Michael to my podcast.
Thank you.
Mr. Castling, I really admire, firstly, your name, Mr. Castling Michael. That's the first time I'm hearing the name Castling. What does it mean?
It's not it's French. I don't know exactly what it means. I know it derives from France. I'd have to look up the coat of arms. I know Malacast is a French term, which is close to Castelline, and it means the chosen one.
So am I pronouncing it correctly? Castling?
Castelline.
Castelline.
Castelline. I'm not sure exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced in French, but it's pronounced Castelline.
Mr. Castelline, can you tell? I know I might have introduced you the best way that I can, but I want you to personally tell my audience, who really are you?
A fighter. If I can have one word, I would say that I'm a fighter. I'm not saying my life was super challenging or extremely difficult. It's definitely difficult in the sense of the average person. I was born in Germany. My parents, my mom and dad, both met in high school. My dad would join the army. My mom was pregnant at 18, had my sister. My dad was playing college football at the time. He actually got hurt, played at Florida State. And my mother grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. And my father, his parents are from around Detroit, Michigan. They met in high school. Both my grandfathers were in the Navy. And they met outside of NASA Jacks, and they met in high school at Middleburg. So my parents met in Middleburg High. They were high school sweethearts. My father played football. My mom was in the choir. My mom got pregnant when she was a senior in high school. My dad was a freshman in college playing football. He got hurt and lost his scholarship, joined the military. Now he's a kid, about to raise a kid. Has my sister. They go to Topeka, Kansas, and I was born later in Germany in 1988. I think because there were obviously issues, your children raising children, plus the military, deployments, environment. My father was an alcoholic. Him and my mom had issues. They split when I was 3. My mom remarried my stepfather, and then I moved to Florida when I was around 5. And then I was adopted around 7. He was from Aberdeen, so we moved from Germany to Florida. Stayed at Fort Benning, Georgia for a little bit. When I was like 7 or 8, we moved to Aberdeen, and that's where I started school. And then he adopted me around the 2nd, 3rd grade. And then they split when I was probably 12 or 13. My mom actually left him for another guy, this guy Scott. And then I grew up in Edgewood for a good portion around him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that little intro about your history. You were born in Germany, right?
Correct. Yeah, my father was stationed in Berlin. I was born in 88 when the wall fell down.
So that means you were born in Berlin?
Berlin, Germany, correct.
So do you know do you still know, do you know the hospital you were born?
I do not. I don't. I was born on the military base. I don't know what hospital it was. I don't know where it was. I was actually born a baptized Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to hit up the Catholic Church to finish my Catholicism, but they don't even have records of it. I'm not sure if the church burned down. My mom said the church is burned down. It doesn't exist anymore. I don't know, but I have no idea what even hospital I was born in.
So, how was it like to be adopted at 6 years, at age 6?
Honestly, man, it was rewarding. I'll tell you, because when you're a kid at 6 years old, and you think that kids can't think a certain way, and it's a lie that they do. They're far more intelligent than you think. And looking back as a child, I remember my mom cheated on my father and got pregnant by my stepfather, the guy who adopted us, and that's how she had my brother. And I was kind of envious because he grew up with his father. 6 years I didn't know my dad. I'd go to school, I'd see friends and their fathers, people playing sports together, watching their dad, and all I wanted was a father. At 6, 7, 8 years old, I just wanted that male influence. I wanted somebody to call my dad. I wanted someone to be a father. And when he adopted me, I felt for the first time in my life at 6 years old like I belonged somewhere. Like somebody wanted you. You had a family. You had that atmosphere. It wasn't just a guy taking care of you. You now have a father figure. It was different.
So, you said your mother married 8 different men.
She did.
How did you know?
Yeah, it all happened growing up. She married my father. They split. They got divorced. My father gave us up for adoption. And then I was adopted by my stepfather, who's my brother's dad. And then after they split up in my early teens, she dated a guy for 7 years.
Okay.
This guy, Scott, I consider that a marriage. If you're dating someone for 7 years, you're sharing bills, you live in a house. And then she left him and started dating this other guy named Mike. And that's when we moved back to Florida my junior year. And then she broke up with him and married a guy named Rob. And then after high school, that's 5. Since I've been out of high school, she's been married 3 other times.
So, did you have any resentment against this man? These different men? Do you have any resentment against them for having to marry your mother? And do you have any resentment against your mother for married 8 different men?
That's a really tough question.
And
initially, I'll answer it. No, initially, I did. Growing up, I resented my mother a lot, and I hated every man that she was with because they weren't my father. And then when I was 17, I actually met my biological father. And he's had, 17, I'll be 34 next month. So he's had 17 years to try to build a relationship, and he's absent. So if there's any man I resent in my life, it's the man who gave me life. He's had an opportunity that most men don't to try to repatch that relationship, and he just gave up on it. And I guess that hurts the most. As we're talking about off the camera, my mother, growing up, did a lot of wrong things. She did what she thought she was best. But hindsight 2020, it wasn't. But she grew up in a way that she had to relate to chaos. And what I mean by that is when I was probably in my early 20s, my sister was talking to my aunt in Virginia, and then we found out that my mother and my aunt, my mom was identical twin, her other sister, were molested by my grandfather. And then knowing that, it made a lot of sense. So when she would leave from man to man to man, I think my mother was looking for a sense of love and compassion. but she didn't know how to display that. She didn't know normalcy. So she would find guys who would show her love in all the wrong ways, who had the alcohol addiction or the drug addictions, or were physically or emotionally abusive. And when a good man came along, like my stepfather, or the guy, she married a guy named Mike. I'm not going to put his name out there, but he was a decent guy. She didn't know how to manage and handle a relationship of substance and normalcy because her life was chaos. And growing up, I kind of held her accountable. But as I got older, I started to realize she really did the best she could, the way that she knew how, with the environment that she grew up in. And I tried to understand and be compassionate towards her for that. But at the same time, it's hard because I don't think she realizes there's mental and emotional trauma that her children, myself, my sister, and my brother now have to deal with because of choices she made unknowingly. We've been impacted for the rest of our lives. And I try not to make that a negative impact. I try to use it to fight to do good things.
Yeah, right. This is terrible because the society that we're living now is propagating the idea that everyone should do what pleases them at the moment. And
Yes.
so many people are taking decisions that only satisfies them. But they're not looking at what is happening to the next person to me. What are my decisions doing to the people that are around me?
People want instant gratification, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
There's no long-term hustle.
And you see, I believe that the system that we are occupying right now, I see them to be part of the problem because they are just feeding people with this unending diet of rights. Please yourself first. You have the right to be happy. And then with such advice and such spiral, it's like a flu. It makes people just make these decisions that they don't think about it. Just make it instantly. And then they can literally leave everything they've been holding. And they can leave everything, just drop everything down and walk away.
It creates selfishness and
Yeah,
people
yeah.
become irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
It messes up marriages. It's destroying families because people want what they want right now when they want it. And when things get hard, they're not willing to work through it. People just quit.
So tell me, how do you feel about your mom right now? Now you are a grown man, sharp man on suits, full grown man, bodybuilder, gone through the military. I have so many friends. I have so many friends who have gone through the military. Man, they said that's a lot of training. And they said it takes only a true man to go through the military. A true man. Because what you're going to see there is not a joke.
If you don't pay attention to what I'm about to tell you, you're going to make your Army career very short. You treat everybody with dignity and respect, regardless of race, religion, color, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, and all other protected categories. Yes? Yes, Sergeant! Sexual assault is any unwanted physical contact in a sexual nature. So if you put your hands on another individual and you're not instructed to, or you're not saving their life, and they file a sexual assault, and it comes down that you put your hands on this individual when you weren't supposed to, that is going to be on you. You will get kicked out of the military, and then you'll probably have to file as a registered sex offender. Do you understand? Yes!
You've been through the military system. Tell me, how do you feel about your mom now?
Man, that's rough. I mean, I love her. I'll never say I won't love my mom. I mean, she gave me birth, she gave me life. And I can't ever repay her for that. But she made a lot of mistakes. And some of it, she didn't even realize she did it. And you try to forgive her for it. You try to let it go, but there's so many aftermath effects, When I was a kid, I got in a lot of trouble. I got in a lot of fights in high school and middle school. I was always in intervention and in trouble. And I was kind of a problem child. Looking back at 34, well, I'll be 34 next month, but 33 years old, when you have a child in a home where he's physically abused, his brother's physically abused, there's alcoholism, just constant fighting, domestic violence, you're going to act out in school. You're going to look for attention in ways that attention is not there. And negative attention is attention. Instead of realizing this because of the way she grew up, that was a normal life. That was a normal household. Things at home were normal because that's how it was for her. And that's not a normal life. So when you put a child through that, and then you, like her, she put my brother and I on like Depakote and Ritalin, and had us go on the Shepherd Pratt and doing like psychological evaluations instead of just letting us be kids. The problem with that, though, is I was 15, 16 years old. I was a teenager. And I never really took the medication. I kind of just, like, it was prescribed, but I didn't mess with it. But my brother still has problems today because when you're 5, 6 years old taking medication like that, there was a doctor at Shepherd Pratt that said parts of his brain never fully developed because the medication on a child's mind, he became so chemically dependent that now he's 5 to 6 years old, 6 years behind the emotional curve and the social curve, and his body hasn't developed and grown the way that it should because he was so highly medicated at such a young age. And my mother, I blame her for that. I can't hold her against that because at the time she thought she was doing the right thing. I mean, I'm not mad at her. It is what it is. But who in their right mind puts a child 7 years old on medication like that? You know, let a child be a child. I love her. Like I said, I can never take that away. But I think she has a lot of skeletons in her closet and a lot of trauma that she needs dealt with. She needs to get help. And at 50 some years old, I mean, it's never too late. I tried talking to her, and I've reached out to her a few times. You know, I don't ever want to cut that bridge. I mean, she's my mom. You know, she's my biological mother. And, you know, the woman that helped raise me is passed away, but my biological mother still lives in Florida. And I try to call her on Mother's Day, call her on her birthday. Sometimes I'll get no response. Sometimes I don't hear from her at all. But and communication's a two-way street. You know, if you're not going to talk to me, then I'm not going to reach out to you. And at one point, you have to take responsibility for the choices you made and the way that your actions impacted your child's life. You can't blame your children for everything. And it was your responsibility to raise them.
I listen to Nietzsche a lot, and he said that in order for a tree to get to heaven, the root has to get down to hell. You've been through hell. Tell me, what have you learned from it, and how can you use what you've learned, or how are you using it right now to become a better man and so you don't make the same mistakes that you have experienced?
If I could correlate who I am today to any part of my life, the best thing my mother ever did was when I was in high school, believe it or not, she put me in the Boy Scouts. And it was an outlet, it was a way out. I wasn't really a big kid. I played high school sports, and my football coach, my wrestling coach, and my best friend, I still talk to him today, his name's Matt, him and his father, Pat, were probably the biggest influences in my life. The reason I say that is I still, to this day, I remember my wrestling coach, Coach Bocchino, would have us in the wrestling room doing up, downs, and moving and whatever. And we'd have to face this ram on the wall. He'd always tell us, if you quit now, quitting in life always gets easier. It only gets easier to quit. It's, you know, that's the easy way out. Don't be weak-minded. He would just remember, he would always give us these motivational quotes and just feed it to us. And knowing that as a kid, I never wanted to quit. I never wanted to give up. I never wanted to stop because I didn't want to be weak. You know, I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to be valued, because at home, I mean, you were a nobody. You know, my father wasn't around. My mom was in and out. It was absent. It was a lot of abuse. There was really no recognition. I wanted to be equal with someone. And I never wanted to quit. I always tried to be more. And having my buddy Matt in my life, being able to go over to his house and see him and his mom. I mean, you know, no family's normal. You know, everybody has their issues. Brothers and sisters will fight. They'll argue. They'll do whatever. But to see somebody get in a home with other brothers, their sister, their mom, their dad together, a family sit down, eat dinner together, normalcy, go to church on Sundays, kids playing in the neighborhood, to see what a normal American life was like. It let me know that even though my home is chaos, even though there's so much distraction here, that's not normal life. I don't have to live like this. I don't need to be another statistic. There's more to life. There's better opportunities. There's better lifestyles outside of here. And I just try to surround myself with my friends and my buddy Matt as much as possible, and try to put myself in a position where I don't want to be around that negative influence. Does it affect me today? absolutely. I believe we as people inherently have the fight or flight method.
Mm.
You know, people either cower down, they stop, they quit, they shut down. And then there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's just how we respond to things as human beings. It's our natural animal instinct, or we fight back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a fighter. I'm not going to sit down and cower away. But I use what happened to me as a form of motivation to try to do better and give back and never quit. You know, I always see that ram in front of me. And so if you quit now, you always be a quitter. And I try to implement that in relationships, at my job, when I'm in the gym. I try to, anything I do in life, I always remember my wrestling coach saying that quitting only gets easier.
Mm-hmm. So you had a neighbor who took care of you, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about this neighbor.
So, funny story. I was actually breaking into my house when I met her. So my mom was gone. She was working. My stepfather was working night shift at the time. My sister and I were coming home from school, and the bathroom window in the townhouse in Seven Oaks and Edgewood, where we would live off of Hanson Road, would sometimes being unlocked, and we're trying to prop it open to pull the screen out to break into the house. And you see two, semi-teenagers, late elementary, early middle school kids breaking into a home. You're going to ask questions. So she came over, asked us what we were doing. We said, hey, look, our mom's not home. We're just trying to get in. She says, why don't you guys come over and hang out with me? And, we're like, it's a strange lady. We don't really know her. Whatever. Well, we did. We went over there, and she made us dinner. She came back. She introduced herself to my mom. And from that day forward, every day after school, we'd go over there and have coffee with her, have cheese or whatever. She'd make us dinner. And my mom would be working at bars. She ran a DJ company, Tune Tones Karaoke. She worked at a bar, and she ended up dating one of the bouncers. And that's when she left my stepdad and started dating him. But she just wasn't around as much. And she kind of took us in. She started seeing things and piecing things together. And she became the eyes and the ears of a mother. And then she had 2 kids. And as the kids got older, she would ask us to babysit them. She would do things with us on the weekends and try to get us out of the house, try to bring us over her house. And after high school, my mom and my sister really quit talking. So my junior year of high school, my mom came home one day, just packed the house up and left. My sister was still a senior, and my mom left her in Maryland and took my brother and I to Florida. So my sister is a 17-year-old female, a senior in high school, going through her last year by herself. Her mom's in Florida, no real communication. They split up. She still stayed in touch with my stepfather, who was there for her. But Nicole stepped in as the mom. She stepped in as that mother figure. She took her in. They lived together. And from that point forward, it was really around like our late teens. She took over that mother role. And that's when we started figuring things out. I told you I met my father at 17. And there's 3 sides to every story. Growing up, there was my mom's side. And then there's my dad's side. And then there was somewhere in the middle was the truth. And as we got older, a little more intelligent, we started piecing things together. We started getting more information. We started realizing, what had really happened. And the relationship with my parents started to diminish because you just felt lied to, you felt betrayed. And Nicole really stepped in as that mother figure, that guideline to spearhead us, to give us the advice. She was always there. She was the one that was around. She was there when you needed it. I'd be deployed. I deployed 4 times in 8 years. And I never got a care package from my mom. Never got an email. Never got a phone call. I haven't had a birthday card or a text message from my mother in probably 5-6 years.
It's cool.
We make choices. She made that choice, biological mother or not. You chose that. And Nicole chose to step in. So
you started working when you were in high school. How old were you when you started working?
I was probably 15.
Okay.
16. And my first job was the Edgewood thrift store right off of Route 40.
Okay.
I was working there till my sister worked until I got the job there. And then when my mom and that guy Scott broke up, the guy who was abusive, we started falling behind the bills, started needing to put food on the table. My brother was getting older. My mom had a truck payment due. My first paycheck was up. My mom make her truck payment. I don't hold that against her. That's what family's for. And I'm not there. We're here to work. We're here to grind this out. We're here to do things, and we'll find a way. We'll make ends meet. But I feel like once I started working and helping pay bills, and my sister was working, my mom kind of felt like she was inferior, and that's when she wanted to move there to Florida. But again, I feel like that was quitting. I feel like she quit. I feel like she gave up. Instead of working harder, finding a way, trying to get out of the situation, keep your kids in a lifestyle where they have their friends and their local connections. You change their whole life and move it around in the middle of a high school year because you can't do something. I think that's weak.
Well, you see, I personally believe that, now this is just for me, all right, it doesn't have to be generally accepted. I personally believe that men are more logical in nature.
I agree.
And women are more emotional in nature. And I'm divorced. And my story is not different from millions of marriages that has broken in America, that the women filed the divorce first.
I agree.
You hardly hear that the men file the divorce because men deal with marriage in a logical way. I believe it's mostly men who will think, oh, I don't want to move the kids around. Well, women are more emotional in nature. And when you react to the spontaneous drive of emotion, you will do something that is catastrophic or something that is just not worth doing. But this is interesting because it is a past. And because it's the past, I wish there were a time machine to go back and fix those things.
Right.
But there's no time machine.
I wouldn't change anything. As dreadful as it sounds, I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be who I am today. So my mother's very spontaneous. It's kind of the party animal. When I met my father, he's real shy and timid. So I never really knew where I got my personality from. I think I'm a lot like my grandfather, my father's father. But growing up the way that I grew up, it gave me that drive to want more. And what I mean by that, without getting too off topic, when my mom was dating that guy, Scott, there's one day that sticks in my mind that changed my life forever. Me and my brother, he would go to work, and he was an electrician at Johns Hopkins, and he went into the sheet metal shop and he fabricated something for the doors. And you know how you would put something over the doorknob at a hotel that says room service or no service or do not disturb. So imagine something like that would hang down, and you could turn it over and it would come out and it'd stick out a little more. So from the outside of a door, you could lock it so you couldn't get out from the inside. So you were locked in the room.
Right.
And if we did something he didn't like, he would lock us in the room. He would put that fabricated piece. It was a piece of metal, and it had like rubber that was stuck to it and a keyhole cut out so you could lock it on the door and we couldn't get out.
Right.
And we would just sit in there and read books and watch whatever, things we had and play our little Game Boys if you didn't take that. Or when you're locked in a room with your brother and you can't get out, you're doing dishes as a child, you think that's just punishment, but you get older and you realize that there's psychological effects to that when it's happened all the time. Well, anyway, we were joking around one day. I think we were playing some type of basketball or playing with cars. We were making noise, and he was drunk. He got up, came in the door, and my brother was laying on the bed. He was facing the wall. I was probably 14, and he grabbed him by the neck, and he just started smacking him in the face. And he pushed me aside because we were being too loud. And then I could just hear my mom screaming, "Scott, stop, Scott, stop," because she knew what was going on. And when he was done, my brother had a bruise in the shape of a hand across his face at 9 years old. And I would sit in the corner, and I felt helpless, like I couldn't do anything, and I just had to sit there and watch it. And I remember this day vividly. My mom was standing in the doorway. She was wearing a teal nightgown. It had like lace up at the top, came down to about her knee. And she's just in the doorway screaming, and Scott's in there just choking on my brother's laying in the bed. And I was in the corner just watching. And it was that day I told myself, I will never put myself in a position where I'm ever helpless, where I can't defend my brother, my children, my wife, my family, or myself. I will never be helpless again. Because I felt so powerless, my brother's sitting here just taking this, and I'm 14, 15 years old. You think you're the man of the house because you're helping your mom support things, and you just had your first job. You're trying to figure things out, and you're a teenage guy, but there's nothing you can do. I was so helpless. And I told him when he left, I looked at my brother again as he was crying. I said, "Hey, man, it's going to be all right. I said, if he ever touches you again, let me know. And he heard me say that. And then he came back in the room and he pushed me in the corner and I fell down and he hovered over top of me. And he said, what are you going to do? If I touch him again, what are you going to do? I said, why don't you just hit me right now so I can go on to school tomorrow and tell everybody who you really are? Because you don't know, man. People go to school, you see children, you go out in public and they think one thing and it's really another. But you hide so much stuff. You just don't talk about it. I wanted him, I wanted in that moment, I said, just hit me one time so I could just go to school, report this, and get out of here. I wanted out. I never wanted to feel powerless ever again. And from that day forward, I think that's where not arrogance came in, but I started walking with a real big chip on my shoulder. And I was never, ever going to be pushed around ever again because I knew what it felt like to be absolutely out of control and just helpless. And I do not like that feeling. I will never feel that way again.
What do you think we should name this podcast?
I don't know. Fortitude.
Fortitude.
Resilience. Relentless.
Why did you join the Army?
Well, I mean, it's a history in my family. You know, my father was in the Army. My stepfather was in the Army. My grandfather was in the Marine Corps. My other grandfather was in the Army.
Was it like a traditional thing since your family?
That and I mean, my grades were kind of bad in school. So when I wanted to go to Clemson University. I actually really like to draw. I'm actually a pretty good artist. Not to brag or anything, but growing up, I would win art shows and competitions in the school. Had myself in art displays. Like I was actually a really good artist. And I wanted to go to Clemson and be an architect. That was my dream job as a child, was to be an architect.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into the guidance counselor's office and I said, what do I need to do to go to Clemson? And they pulled the GPAs, they pulled my grades, they pulled like the SAT scores. And when you don't know and you don't come from a family who's been to college or how the system works or how things go, it just seemed like I couldn't afford it. I felt like I wasn't smart enough. I felt like it just wasn't an option for me. He's like, oh, you need this GPA. Yours is only here. You know, you're really struggling. I think you should look more like a community college. It might be cheaper, something more you could afford. The guidance counselor basically talked me out of even pursuing something to go to Clemson, which I see where he was coming from, but at the same time, it changed my whole life. So I just, from that point forward, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to join the Army. Get out of here. I'm going to go see the world. I'm going to do what my dad did, but I'm going to do it right. You know, try to settle down, have a family, be in the military, execute all the other problems that I had to live with, and be a man of good character and break that cycle of just bad families. So I decided to join the Army and try to do things right.
What is one of the best things about joining the Army for you? What is the best record for you? I know you must have had a lot of experience in the Army. How many years?
I have 17 years in it. Actually, I joined at 17. 30. So this October 31st, believe it or not, Halloween.
Okay.
It'll be 17 years. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. So far, what has been your best experience in the military?
So I say my best experience, it's probably also the worst, was Afghanistan in 2012. You know, medevac missions for the Marine Corps inside, Camp Dwyer. And you see a lot of things and you hear a lot of things. And I mean, obviously working in flight ops, you're not too engaged, but it's an eye opener. You know, it's a real world war scenario, and people lives are affected in war. War is a tremendous thing, but it's not like Kosovo or Kuwait or Iraq or a peacekeeping mission. This was legit combat, and I know medics that have come back, and multiple people have PTSD. There's trauma things. People are now hooked on drugs. Alcoholism became an issue. Divorce rates went sky high. We lost 2 aircraft while we were there. While I was there in Afghanistan is when the lady who raised me, I had a Red Cross message, Nicole. She actually had jaundice. I had to come home. She was going to die. She was in a coma. I was home. And then I came back to Afghanistan after that, and then the aircraft went down, so 4 people died there. And It was a really, really bad year. But because of everything that happened there, everything going on in the combat zone with certain medics and people going left and right, you establish and build friendships with people because you were there when they were going through something that in the most austere environment of your life, you build the closest friendships and the connections that you can't replace. You can't bring that back. You can't re-imitate
the memories,
that memory or that environment, that adrenaline rush, that psychological impact. You're never going to relive that moment here in the United States. You're never going to find someone else who you can resemble to go through that relationship with. And once you experience that with somebody, it builds a closer bond because some of the hardest times in your life were with these people, and you can't re-imitate that.
What was the war like? What was the combat like? Where did you find yourself, and what was it like for you? Like,
for me personally, I mean, at the time I was doing like aviation operations, so I wasn't on like the front lines. So I didn't really see anything. But the war itself, I mean, it's so political. I'm not gonna lie. There's so many rules and obligations and things you can and can't do. And I remember when we were there, we got a 9-line, and this one still kind of sticks in my head a little bit because it changed my whole perspective. You know, you go in there. It's my birthday, September 12th. Not to get off topic, but 9/11 happened. I was 13 the day after I turned 12, and you're watching 9/11 on the news, and that was another big impact. I was like, I'm joining the Army. I'm getting out of here. Like, this is what I'm destined to do. So I'm like, all right, let's go to war. Let's go to Afghanistan. Let's fight this. Let's go back and get revenge. Just do whatever. Like, you know, you're just excited to just go and be a part of this history event, historical event. So, you know, you want to do that. Kids today are studying this in high school, and I was there. Like, I can speak, like, hey, this is what happened. But we got this 9-line, and a baby, just like 7, 9 months old, was thrown in the Helmand River, and it needed to be hoisted out because it was drowning. So when you have the rules of engagement, if it is a child, it has to be escorted by the same gender. So if it's a female, it's by female child, a male by male. So the elder male escorted this child as an escort on the helicopter after we hoisted it out. Well, when they get back, one of the guys was talking about how this guy pulled a phone out and was trying to dial something. Well, you know, he grabbed the phone, he threw it out the window. They come back, they search him, and he has a bomb vest on. And, you know, you sit there and you have to ask yourself, when you find this out, you know, you're not on the helicopter, you're not part of that crew, but somebody's going to throw a child into a river for a chance, not even do it, but the opportunity to try to take 4 American lives and their own. One, you can't fix that mindset. There's no hearts and minds, there's no propaganda, there's no psychological warfare, there's no direct combat. You're not going to change that generational mindset. But 2, if you're not there, who's protecting the child? Who's offering them peace? Because you can save the younger generation. You can't save the current one. And it kind of gave me mixed feelings about the war, and mixed views. I don't know. That one kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. Interesting. What are your worst days? Let's not make it days. What is one terrible day you've experienced in the military?
Terrible day in the military.
We've talked about the good day. What is a bad day you experienced in the military?
I would say the day the aircraft went down, Diamond Head 5053. It was just awkward, you know. I was sitting in my chew, which is where we sleep, and then there's a medevac call that came out, and obviously, you know, helicopters are going in and out, coming in. There's a normal battle rhythm. You kind of pick up the pace of operations while you're there. And then one night I'm sitting down just watching a movie, and I hear bird after bird after bird, and then I hear 2 birds coming back, and then it was nothing the rest of the night. And you just kind of get like this, it was just an eerie feeling, right? So then I walk in the next day, and Sergeant Moody was the guy behind shift. I said, "Hey man," I was like, "What happened last night?" He goes, "You didn't hear?" I was like, "Nah, man. I just heard a couple of people flying, this and that." And like, it just wasn't normal. You just had a busy night.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "No, we got a call. Then a File Pain, a suicide bomber went in and hit a market, and they got a 9-line call, but they didn't have the weather to launch, so we launched out of Dwyer. And while we were going down, the chase aircraft, it was supposed to be a weapons escort, got disorientated and flew into the ground, and 4 people were killed." And that they determined that after the investigation, they couldn't tell if it was shot down initially, if it was disorientated, if it was a sandstorm that got it. But I would say that day, every pilot, every crew chief, every operations person, you were just on eggshells. It was just, you realize you've been there for 90 days, and 4 people that were here yesterday are gone. And you're only a third of the way through your deployment. It was this one day that kind of just,
You would think.
yeah. And then, they cut down communications. It's called a River City. So you can't call home. There's no like, "Hey, if you watch the news, I'm okay. Don't worry about it." No, like you're blacked out. So your family's watching the news and, in Afghanistan, helicopter in the Helmand province crashes and 4 soldiers were killed. Names are not released at this time. Your family's freaking out. Like, is it my husband? Is it my wife? Is that my child? Is it my son? Was my daughter on that helicopter? And they have no idea until the family's communicated with, and you lived, and they're going to hear back from you. So everybody's nervous. It's just a horrible time. It's a bad time.
It may seem really, really, I don't know. Laughing in a situation like this may not be called for, but I'm really laughing because a lot of people are living their lives. They don't know what some other people are going through just to keep the defense of this country standing. A lot of people lose their life just to keep this country in this position where it is.
Yeah, you give up a lot in the military, not even just in the sense of war, but I'm not married. I don't have any kids, but my nephew, he was born 12, 13, 14. This is 2022. He'll be 8 years old. December 13th, he'll be 8 this year. And I've only known him for 3 years of his life, because you deploy 3 times. It's 5 years, of his life I've actually been around. But then you add in training and schools, and you're going all the time. There was a point in time where I really didn't even know who my nephew was. And he was 4 years old at the time, and I've only seen him for a year of his life. But you give up that, and then I was married. I got married in 2013, and then I got divorced in 2014 when I deployed the 3rd time, just because it was constant deployments. You're home for a year, gone for a year, home for a year, gone for a year. And in your early 20s, I don't expect any woman or man to deal with that. It's a young man's game. And we probably got married way too early anyway, and we were not compatible. It was never going to work. Looking back at it, divorce was the best option for sure. But you lose a lot. It costs you relationships, it costs you time. You're 33, 34 years old. You don't have a family. You don't have kids. It's not that you don't want that, but when you're gone 5 years in a decade, from 21 to 31, you spend half your years deployed. It's hard to settle down. It's hard to focus on one thing, and it changes your life, man. Because you're constantly looking for that next adrenaline, or you get so career focused that you even lose sight on even pursuing anything else. You just want this, and eventually one day, you step back and you try to focus on the smaller things in life. But
I listen to Jordan Peterson a lot, and he said that choose a life of purpose and not that of expedience. And he is also fostering the idea that we shouldn't go for happiness. We shouldn't go for the luxury that life might have to entertain us with, but we should go for meaning. Your decision to have gone to the military, is it meaningful enough? Is it meaningful enough to justify the suffering that comes with it?
To me, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't change it at all. I think there's a greater purpose. I love my country. I love what it stands for. I truly believe this is the greatest nation alive. If you love something, there's nothing you won't do for it. And there's something special and something honorable about being a U.S. soldier. And not that, not everybody thinks that way. Not that everybody doesn't think that way. But there has to be a certain level of pride, certain level of, not arrogance, but a level of confidence when there's, being in the military, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever it is, that you have to wear to be successful. And if not, you're just going to wash out. But to me, to be a soldier, to put the uniform on, to come in, to do the work, to be with other soldiers and know what it represents, you knew what you were getting into. You should take pride in it.
This is excess energy drink. Since you're a bodybuilder, I sell it in my business.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a website where I sell energy drinks like this. And since you'll be coming to my studio, I got it. You can try it, and probably to chill out a little bit, so you can also ease out. You drink caffeine?
I do, yeah.
Okay. You can try it.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me try it now.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Right. Definitely.
Oh, man, it's only 10 calories. It's good.
Yeah, right.
Is there any sugar in it? Vitamin B12. This is good. No sugar. Yeah, it's perfect.
Try it.
Thank you.
Let's see what it tastes like.
It's actually really good.
Right.
That's really good.
Really good.
I like that. Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. It's really smooth.
No, there's zero sugar.
Yeah. That's what I use when I work out as well.
This is good. Yeah. I like this.
Yeah. I hope it helps to, ease you up a little bit.
Oh, am I seem tense?
Not too much. But I believe what we're talking about here is a really critical conversation. Because you told me that you've lost one of your soldiers.
Right.
Was he under your command?
He was. So initially he wasn't. He came in, he joined the Army. It's kind of how I met him. He came in to work at the airfield. He was lost. And that was the first drill weekend he had. He came in, he joined the Army, myself, and my buddy Matt, my best friend Matt that I grew up with, who was in Boy Scouts with me. Him and I joined the military together, ended up working at the airfield, still talked, just maintained that friendship. And we kind of groomed this guy, Sergeant Hyde, from the time he was a private, to the time he was an E4. I helped him get promoted to E5 while we were deployed. I got brought his NCOR, I did his packet. He was like a little brother to me. And to watch him come from the ranks and then start off small, mature, and then grow up to just be that young E5, it was pertinent. But Memorial Day of 2021, I got a phone call. This is probably the worst day, I guess, in the Army, if you want to talk about bad days. But probably just I consider this more personal life. I got a phone call from another soldier that was with us on deployment. He said, "Hey man, did you hear about Hyde?" And it's weird because we had talked 2 days before, and he was like, "Hey, I'm trying to transfer. I don't want to go into too much subject because, say, hey, I'm trying to look for another unit. You got this, whatever, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Nah, man." I said, "What? Did he transfer back to the brigade? Do this? Like, what's going on?" He said, "Nah, he's dead." Wow. I said, "What do you mean?" They're like, "We don't know exactly what happened or how it went down, but he's dead, man." And this is Memorial Day.
To defeat the stigma, I think we should do what as leaders we're supposed to do: take care of our guys instead of taking care of them from physical, mental to anything. They need something. If they need help, we have to help. We have to help them. If we help them find a home, or we help them with bills, or we help them with AR stuff like that. Why don't we just help them by saying, "Hey, go get help," and instead of having that stigma. Because I went through it, and I'm pretty sure, like most of my other NCOs, they spread the word about going to get help instead of like hammering. But I would say just being open-minded and having the guys go get help and be defeating the stigma. That's what I would say.
So how did you get into bodybuilding?
So bodybuilding, initially, my first show was actually in 2014. I did OCB. I deployed for the first time. I was boxing because everything, you know, I was a kid, you know, all that, you know, aggression and all that. I moved to Florida with my grandparents, joined the Police Explorer program. I got in the Police Athletic League and I started to box.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2008, I actually fought in the Golden Gloves. And Emmanuel, Maxwell Taylor actually fought pro, was one of my sparring partners, and Karan Love. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple good guys out of the gym. Trump City Boxing is a great place to go. If anybody's listening that wants to box, that's the place to go.
Okay.
And I don't get paid to advertise for them, but Dave Sewell is a great trainer.
Okay.
Anyway, I deployed in 2008 for the first time. And when you sit a year out in your early 20s, you're old. Like, that's boxing old. 21, 22. I met this guy, Les Piletsky, who won Mr. Poland. He won Mr. Alaska. He had like a supplement company he was working on. He was out of Texas. His family was coming over, and he was a bodybuilder in Poland. And I started working out with him. And then my next deployment, I actually met Phil Heath. And then he was Mr. Olympia at the time. And that kind of got me, and I was going through my divorce at the time and all that stuff. And that kind of got me in to do my first show. And then I took like a 10-year hiatus, probably 8 years, really just kind of gave up on it. But then in 2019, it was July 4th, I got the phone call that Nicole had passed away. And that really hit me hard. And then December 15th, it was during halftime when the Ravens played the Browns and Lamar Jackson had to run into the locker room because they used the bathroom. I'll never forget that game. It was during halftime. My brother, of all people, called me and said, "Hey," you know, he just kept blowing my phone up. He just kept calling and calling and calling. And eventually I saw it and I said, "Hey man, what's going on?" He goes, "Hey, Dad is in the hospital. He's not doing well. I think he's going to die." And I was like, "Damn." So I called my sister and I let her know. And he was on, they put him on life support. He couldn't really hear us or breathe, or we didn't know if he was alive or not, if he was in a coma, if he was going to make it. And he was basically just living off the machine. But they left him there long enough to medically declare him alive until he has 2 daughters from a previous marriage that live in Florida. When they got up here, they said their final goodbyes. And then he had a do not resuscitate in his will. Or he wanted to not be resuscitated. So that was it. And then he passed away. And then Memorial Day of 2021, this was December of 2020. 6 months later, my soldier that I helped, you know, groom and take care of, he was like a little brother to me. When we came back from deployment in Iraq, he was always on time, always did everything you asked him to do. He's very disciplined. Yes, sergeant. No, sergeant. Roger that. Very respectful. You could tell he came from a good family. His father was real disciplined on him. He was ranked 25th in the nation, number 2 in the state in wrestling through high school. He was, you know, physically fit. He was just a great kid. He was just a good kid. And after we came back from Iraq, he was, you know, having issues in his marriage. Things were bad at home. He got a DUI, started getting in bar fights. Just wasn't coming to drill, wasn't coming to work. He was coming in drunk. And that wasn't him, you know. You start to realize, like, hey, this guy's a problem. He needs help. And he wasn't getting the help that he needed. People weren't really doing much to give it for him either. So you try to reach out to him and you talk to him as a friend. And you're like, "Hey man, are you good? Is everything all right?" And he tells you, "Oh, you know, I'm good, son. I'm good. And, you know, you think, like yourself as a man, like, oh, he'll just push through it. You know, he'll tough it out. You know, you kind of go around that this isn't him. He's a better kid. He's just going through a phase. He's young." And then Memorial Day, you get a phone call and they tell you he's dead. You know, he was so drunk. He stepped out the shower that he slips, falls, and hits his head. And that's how a 2-time state champion, top 20 national qualifier dies, is slipping in the shower and hitting his head. And, you know, it hits you. You're like, you know, life is so short. You've lost your mother, your father, or brother. 3 people who helped support you, especially when I did my first show. Like, I was my workout partner. My mom, Nicole, was the only family member I had who actually made my first show. My stepfather was, you know, super proud. He still has a picture on his fridge when he passed away from my first show. He still had it sitting on his fridge. And I said, that's the one thing that pieced all 3 of them together was bodybuilding. And if there's anything that they would want me to do in their absence, it's live my life to my fullest, do what makes me happy, follow my full potential. And with that being said, you know, everything that I had growing up, and then Hyde being, you know, struggling with alcohol addiction and fighting the alcoholism and other inner demons and battles and depression. You try to go to the military, you try to go through your local congressman, you try to reach out to different county councils and try to find different benefits for other family members. And other soldiers and try to help people. You want to make change. You want to make policy, because this guy is not the guy that he was when he passed away. That he's a better person than that, and he was always a great soldier. And sometimes good people make bad decisions, and they're not always that person. And I figured, instead of crying about it, instead of being depressed, instead of sitting around and just eating food and sitting at home and just going to work, and I would literally just work hours on end. I'd get to work at 7, leaving like 6, 8 o'clock at night. I just worked myself to death. And I would just sit at home on the weekends. I don't want to go out anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I would just eat food. And then COVID came in, the quarantine, you're sitting at home by yourself. I really, really got depressed. And that wasn't me. So I said, I need to make a change. I need to make a foundation. I need to set a platform where I can speak on drug addiction, on domestic violence, on, these things that affect families on a daily basis, depression. But what do I have that separates me from the next guy? What have I done in my life that makes me different? And I never was the smartest person in the room or the strongest guy, or I really was like, man, what do I have to offer? And I was like, well, I did a bodybuilding show that ties all three of my close people together. That's something that not a lot of people can do. It's a very mentally, physically, and emotionally demanding. It's a tasking job. I don't even call it a sport. I mean, it's nearly a part-time job. Mm-hmm. But it's a very competitive industry, and especially you're competing with yourself a lot. Mm-hmm. So I said, if I can do this, not for me this time, not just because I want to do it, but for them. And if I can set myself on a foundation and a platform to put myself through the most austere conditions, the lowest amount of body fat, you're literally beating your body down to a point to create this physical specimen of a human being to display. But there's a lot of, I don't want to say pain or agony, but you're tired, you're deprived, you're hungry, you're irritable, but you're not dead. And if I can work and keep grinding and put myself through all of this effort, how can I use that to still give back? And I reached out to my trainer and I said, hey, I need to get back on stage. I need to do this for me. I need to do this for my family. And then as I started competing, it was probably about, say, 3 or 4 months out from my show. I was like, I put so much time and effort in this, and the money with the training, the time, the gym memberships, the food. How can I use this to make money, but still not just make it this emotional connection? Like there's got to be something more than this. There's got to be something bigger. So I decided to try to start my own company. And it started as a joke around a campfire with my buddy Josh. We were just spitballing names, and we were just joking, saying this and saying that, and then the name Malacast came out. And it clicked. I said,
what's the name again?
Malacast. Malicast. Malacast.
Okay.
It's Michael Allen Casterline merged together, which is my full name. Mm-hmm. But Malacast is also French, which means the chosen one or man of God. Mm. Malachi is the last of the 12 disciples, which is like the underdog. And it all just clicked. It all just worked. So it was that night. Once he said the name, I literally went on a graphic design page to design a logo. I got the copyright to it. Okay. I bought the rights to the name. I went on GoDaddy. I bought the website, malacast.com, malacast.org. I own it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm just working on a distributor to try to get this company up and running to platform a clothing line. Mm-hmm. And a portion of all profits, not all funds, but a portion of the profit will go to families of domestic violence, children of drug addiction, support kids to help get college funds. Probably just go with like a nonprofit organization. Hopefully it'll be up and running by this time next year. But I needed something that the average person didn't have, and the average person didn't have that physique, that point to stand on. So that's when I reached out to my trainer. I said, hey, like I need this. Like it's bigger than just bodybuilding to me. It's my company. It's modeling. Use modeling to model your own clothes, to get into use bodybuilding to get into modeling. Use that to push the company, and then use the company to give back, to really help fight the addiction, the abuse, the trauma that kids are going through that people don't see.
So what kind of clothing do you specialize in?
It'll be athletic wear.
Athletic wear. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
no suits, no dress?
Not yet. Mm-hmm. Not yet. So initially And I'm a big fan of hooded stringers. I'm known in the gym. Every gym I go to, I'm always got a hood on or like a baseball cap or something. It's like my trademark.
Mm-hmm.
So hooded stringers, it'll be like yoga clothes for women. Well, the top has a hood. Everything will have a hood on it. That's
So what's the name again?
Malacast.
Malacast?
Right.
Okay.
And then once the clothing line grows, we'll expand the marks from the clothes, go from like, the yoga clothes, the different workout clothes, the, advancing that, and eventually going to like the suit wear and then maybe a supplement line.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely room for growth.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought about getting into suits, tailored suits, and
Mm-hmm.
like Under Armour style clothing, the spandex.
Okay.
But right now it's just 2 or 3 designs for shirts for guys, like 1 or 2 designs for females. Try to start small, see where it grows,
Mm-hmm.
and then build on. I don't want to take too much on in the beginning and get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading a couple of forums, and they say that's one thing where a lot of businesses fail. They try to do too much, and then it just collapses. So start small and just grow.
Mm.
Add like 1 or 2 items every quarter, every month.
Mm.
Make a new release. But yeah, this time next year it should be up and running. Try to partner with the gym. I've already talked to a couple other gyms. Try to sponsor a couple of youth camps and do like fitness programs for troubled youth. They have like mentorships in local high schools.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I was a kid, they had like the Boys and Men program and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So reach out to the local county and say, hey, these are our troubled youth. The YMCA runs a fitness program in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you let my company host and run the program? I'll organize it. We'll run it. And then that, it gives advertisement inside of the county I live in, the school district that I live in. Helps these kids know, like, hey, we're here to help you go to college. This clothing line is here to support these kids here, troubled youth, families of drug addiction, to help people fight addiction.
So, in your bio, you said something. You said something, and I quote: "I am trying to be the voice I didn't have."
That's right.
What voice is that?
It's guidance. There wasn't much guidance. You have all these influences. You have people supporting you, and you can see second, third order, effects of families and wrestling coaches. But no one was really ever there to say, hey, this is how you apply for college. Hey, you don't have to live this lifestyle. Hey, you don't have to go down this path. I kind of just had to figure it out. And if I can find 1, 2, 5 kids in a local town or across the world, whatever it might be, and I can be that voice of influence to let them know drug addiction is a choice. It doesn't discriminate. Race, gender, creed, ethnic background, your social status. You have a choice to do that. Your parents' decisions are not your decisions. Your life is not their life. And if I can be that voice of reason, if I can be that spearhead to guide them to go to Clemson, to say, hey, you don't think you can afford this. There are other ways. You don't think you're smart enough. You're still young. You still have 3 more years of school. Maybe that kid will go to Clemson. Maybe he'll be the architect. Maybe this kid will go off and he'll be the athlete that he wants to be. Or maybe this kid doesn't think he can or she can, ever make it as a beautician or whatever it is in their life that they're told that they can't do, whatever it is they feel that they can't do because they're socially, financially, and economically restricted from different resources. It doesn't matter. All you need is that one person to tell you, I came from your environment. I grew up the same way you did. I know what you're going through, and I made it. You can make it. You just got to try. Let me show you how. And if I can give that back to just one kid, if I can save one family, and if I can get one person off of drugs and impact just one person, I feel like I win. I have a lot of guilt, some guilt for Hyde, the way he passed away, because I knew, you ask yourself, did I do enough? Did I call him enough? Did I text him enough? Did I check in on him? Did I really reach out and use all my resources in the Army or try to do everything I can to help this kid that I called a brother? Before my mom passed away, she was dating a guy. When I say my mom, I mean Nicole. And we kind of quit talking. because she was dating a guy I really didn't like, and he was doing some stuff, and we got in a big argument. But did I really do enough? Why didn't I call her more? Why didn't I talk to her? Maybe she was going through something. I still really don't talk to my biological mother but you step back and you're like, hey, she was molested as a kid. Maybe she has these issues because of what she went through. Maybe if she had a voice, someone to reason with her, maybe if she had some guidance, someone to talk to, her life would have been different, which would change the lives of her kids, which would change their kids' lives. If you could change one person, I think you change a whole generation. And you just have to be that voice. You got to be willing to do it. And I think bodybuilding is my platform. I think this is my calling. I think everything that happened that was negative as a child, and between my mom and my soldier passing away, here it is in my mid-30s. I think my true calling is to start this company, use bodybuilding as my platform. My work ethic is the one thing that no one else will ever match, and use that to just give back to people that don't have or don't think that they can.
That sounds like a very beautiful way to end this podcast.
All right.
I normally end my podcast with riddles of, poems. Mine is Stony the road we trod, bitter the chasing roar, felt in the days when hope unborn had died in us, yet with a steady beat. Have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. Come to the place for which our parents sighed. We are the children of those who would not die. We are propelled, enhanced, and delivered by the blood of those who were slaughtered on our behalf. We didn't get here by chance. Some people paid the price. Some people did the work, probably people in the military, people who had to fight to see us free. Some people did the work. And that is why we are truly free today. For you, do you have a poem that whenever you recite it, you remember it, it purges your soul?
No, I don't.
Riddle, metaphor, probably from the Bible.
I mean, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father art in heaven, and hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, will be done on earth. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Our trespassers, as we forgive those who have trespassed against us.
Thank you for coming on my podcast.
Thank you.
Right.